The galaxy was a vast and complex web of thriving civilizations. Across its countless star systems, the most powerful alien empires ruled with technology so advanced that their ships glided effortlessly through the stars. These beings had conquered much of the galaxy, establishing dominance and order. In the shadow of their empire, one species had long been forgotten: humanity. For centuries, humans had been isolated from the galactic community. The war between humanity's past and the alien empires had left Earth's descendants scattered, forgotten, and abandoned. The Galactic Council, an alliance of the most powerful alien species, had deemed humans to be a primitive and insignificant species. Earth was a backwater planet, with little to no presence in the affairs of the galaxy. Even the mention of humans in the most obscure alien archives was barely a footnote in the history of the universe. But deep in the cold void of space, where even the brightest stars seemed to fade into distant darkness, something was stirring. Far beyond the reach of any alien empire, in the depths of an uncharted nebula, an ancient secret was waiting to be uncovered. It began with an alien archaeological team from the Idzari race, a species known for their obsession with ancient relics and forgotten civilizations. The Idzari had traveled to the nebula known as Cellin Prime, a region of space so remote that even the most daring explorers dared not venture too close. The nebula was an enigma, filled with strange gravitational anomalies and swirling clouds of gas that seemed to warp time and space. To most, it was just another vast, empty expanse of space. But for the Idzari, it was a goldmine of potential discovery. As the Idzari team began their scans of the nebula's dense clouds, their sensors picked up an anomaly, a massive structure buried beneath the gas. At first, they thought it was a natural formation, a forgotten asteroid field, or an ancient black hole's remnant. But as they sent their ships deeper into the nebula, they found something far more astonishing. A fleet of enormous starships, long abandoned, lay dormant within the gas cloud. These ships were not the creations of any known species in the galaxy. Their design was unlike anything the Idzari had ever seen, an ancient architecture that spanned millions of years. The hulls were composed of materials unknown to their scientists, alloys that defied conventional understanding. Their surfaces were smooth, almost liquid in appearance, with symbols etched into the metal, symbols that had not been deciphered by any known race. The ships were arranged in a manner that suggested organization, their shapes sleek and aerodynamic. Yet, despite their grandeur, the fleet seemed eerily lifeless. There were no signs of any crew members, no active energy readings, nothing to indicate that these ships were anything but long-forgotten relics. The Idzari scientists were stunned. This discovery could rewrite the history of the galaxy, proving that there was once a civilization far older than anything they knew. But something was wrong. As the Idzari ships neared the fleet, their scanners picked up faint energy signals coming from within the vessels. At first, it seemed like a glitch in the system, something that could be explained by the deep gravitational anomalies of the nebula. But as they continued their scans, the signals became stronger. There was something alive inside these ships. Aboard the Idzari flagship, the crew was on edge. The fleet of ships they had found was not merely a curiosity, it was a mystery. They quickly dispatched a group of elite engineers and scientists to board one of the human starships, eager to uncover its secrets. As they approached the ancient vessel, the tension was palpable. They were about to step onto a ship that had been abandoned for millennia. What had happened to its original crew? Why had it been left here, alone, in the depths of space? The Idzari engineers docked their craft with the largest of the human starships. The air inside the docking bay was stale, as if it had been untouched for centuries. The atmosphere inside the ship was heavy, filled with the scent of ancient metal and dust. The ship's walls were adorned with unfamiliar symbols, language that no alien had ever seen before. Everything about the ship was alien, and yet strangely familiar. The Idzari scientists marveled at the technology, noting its obvious superiority to their own ships. They began accessing the ship's systems, connecting their advanced technology to the dormant network within the vessel. The Adzari technicians expected the ship's systems to be completely non-functional, perhaps a series of long-dead circuits and processors. But as they began to interface with the ship's core, something extraordinary happened. The ancient human ship began to hum to life. At first, it was a subtle shift, a flicker in the ship's lighting system, a faint vibration in the walls. But soon, the hum grew louder, and the entire ship seemed to come alive. The Adzari watched in awe as the dormant systems of the ship slowly activated, one by one. Screens flickered on, displaying streams of data in a language the Adzari could barely comprehend. A series of cryptic messages appeared on the control consoles, messages that seemed to be in a code long lost to the galaxy. The Adzari scientists scrambled to decipher the strange data, but their efforts were in vain. The technology within the ship was far beyond their understanding. Whatever race had built this fleet had possessed knowledge and capabilities that surpassed even the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy today. It was as though these ships had been designed by a race of beings who had mastered the very fabric of space and time itself. Then something even more unsettling occurred. The ship's weapons systems, which had been dormant for eons, suddenly powered up. Energy surged through the ship's massive cannons, lighting up the dark nebula in brilliant flashes of power. The Adzari, still aboard the ship, realized too late that they had activated something far more dangerous than they had imagined. The fleet, which they had assumed was nothing more than an ancient relic, was a weapon that had been waiting to be awoken. In the command center of the Adzari flagship, panic began to set in. The fleet of human ships, those once thought to be abandoned, had not only reawakened but had also begun broadcasting strange signals into deep space. These signals were not mere data. They were a warning. The message was cryptic, but it was clear. Humans had returned. As the Adzari flagship retreated from the human fleet, the dark mystery of these ancient ships loomed large. No one knew what they were truly capable of, or why they had been hidden away in this forgotten corner of the galaxy. What was humanity's true purpose? What power had they once wielded, and why had it been lost? The galaxy had long underestimated humanity. And now, the consequences of that mistake were about to unfold. In the silence of the nebula, the dormant fleet of human ships sent one final message into the vastness of space, a cryptic warning that would soon echo throughout the galaxy. The legend of humanity had been forgotten for millennia. But soon, the galaxy would learn just what these ancient human fleets were capable of. The news of the ancient human fleet's discovery spread like wildfire across the galaxy, quickly reaching the ears of every major alien empire. In every corner of the galaxy, debates erupted. Some saw this discovery as a stroke of fortune, a chance to unlock secrets of unimaginable power. Others, however, felt an unsettling fear. What were these ships capable of? Why had they been hidden away for so long? The implications were vast, and no one could predict what would happen next. In the halls of the Galactic Council, the decision was made swiftly. To them, the fleet was nothing more than an old relic, a remnant of a bygone age. The Council was composed of the most powerful and advanced alien races in the galaxy, and they considered humanity a primitive species, too weak and insignificant to pose any real threat. After all, humanity had been isolated for millennia, forgotten by the stars. They had no place in the galaxy's grand design. To the Council, the ancient fleet was no different from any other abandoned military relic. It was outdated, useless, and there was no reason to fear it. Without much deliberation, the Galactic Council decided to send a fleet of their own to take control of the ships. They had no intention of leaving such an anomaly unchecked, but instead of studying the fleet or understanding its purpose, they saw it as an opportunity to seize advanced technology. The Council dispatched several warships, armed with the latest alien weapons, to dismantle or capture the human ships. Their mission was clear: remove the threat, and then take whatever they could from the vessels. What the Galactic Council did not anticipate was the sheer complexity of the fleet they were about to face. These ships were not just relics. They were weapons, powerful and ancient. Their technology was far beyond anything the Council had ever encountered. However, the Council believed that their superiority would ensure an easy victory. The first phase of the operation was relatively simple. The Council's forces arrived in the nebula and began scanning the human fleet from a safe distance. They made no attempt to approach too closely, afraid of what might be lurking inside. But as they did, strange things began happening. The human ships, which had been dormant for so long, began to respond to their presence. A low hum filled the air, and the once lifeless vessels began to glow with a strange, eerie light. The Council's sensors failed to make sense of the energy readings. It was as though the ships were alive, watching them, waiting. Undeterred, the Council pushed forward, sending in a covert team of elite alien soldiers to board the flagship of the human fleet. These soldiers were among the best in the galaxy, equipped with the latest weapons and armor. They were trained to deal with threats, no matter how dangerous. The plan was simple: board the flagship, secure the control systems, and disable any defenses. Once that was done, the rest of the fleet would fall into the Council's hands. The elite alien team boarded their stealth vessels and made their way toward the massive human ship. They approached cautiously, as the ship loomed before them, its dark silhouette barely visible against the backdrop of swirling gas and stars. The tension was thick in the air, and every soldier was on high alert. They had no idea what awaited them aboard the ancient vessel, but they were ready for anything. As they docked with the flagship, the doors to the ship slowly opened, and the team stepped into a dimly lit hallway. Their footsteps echoed eerily as they moved deeper into the ship's corridors. The ship's interior was unlike anything the soldiers had ever seen. Strange, alien technology covered the walls, systems and mechanisms that seemed foreign, even to the most advanced of alien species. The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances, but they pressed on, determined to complete their mission. The deeper they went into the ship, the more unnerving the atmosphere became. It was as if they were walking through a tomb, an ancient relic that had long been forgotten. The silence was almost deafening. Then, without warning, the ship's systems came to life. Lights flickered on, and the walls hummed with an eerie energy. The soldiers tightened their grips on their weapons, their nerves on edge. They reached the central command room, where they expected to find the ship's control systems. The team was prepared to take control, disable the AI, and ensure that the ship posed no further threat. However, as soon as they entered the room, they realized something was terribly wrong. The ship's defense systems activated with terrifying precision. A loud, mechanical whirring sound filled the room, followed by the sudden appearance of automated turrets, firing with deadly accuracy. The alien soldiers barely had time to react before they were struck by powerful energy blasts. The force of the attack sent several soldiers flying, their bodies slamming into the walls with sickening thuds. The rest of the team fought back, but their weapons had no effect on the ship's defenses. The ancient AI had awoken, and it was ruthless. The soldiers tried to retreat, but the ship's AI had already calculated their every move. The doors slammed shut, trapping them inside. Automated drones, designed for one purpose: to protect the ship, rushed toward the remaining survivors. The soldiers fought valiantly, but their advanced weapons proved ineffective against the ship's ancient technology. Within moments, the entire boarding party was wiped out. News of the devastating failure quickly reached the Galactic Council. The elite team of soldiers, considered the best of the best, had been annihilated without mercy. The Council was stunned. They had underestimated the fleet, dismissing it as an ancient, outdated relic. But the human ships had proven to be anything but. The fleet was alive with technology far more advanced than anything the Council had ever encountered. In the wake of this defeat, the Galactic Council scrambled to understand what had happened. How could a fleet, abandoned for so long, have such advanced defenses? What was the true nature of the ancient human technology? The fear that had gripped the council began to spread. If the human fleet could destroy their best soldiers with such ease, what else could it do? As the days passed, the fleet of human ships slowly began to move. The council had expected the fleet to remain dormant, a useless hulk drifting in the nebula. But the ships, as if answering an unspoken command, began to maneuver, slowly emerging from the fog of the nebula. The once still vessels were now active, and they moved with an eerie purpose. The Galactic Council watched in horror as the fleet powered up, sending signals into deep space, signals that could only mean one thing: the fleet was taking control. The ships began to break free from the nebula, their massive forms cutting through space with a power that the galaxy had never seen before. The once forgotten human fleet was no longer dormant. It was awake, and it was on the move. As the ships sailed toward the heart of the galaxy, the Galactic Council realized the full extent of their mistake. They had underestimated humanity, and now they were about to face the consequences. As the news of the human fleet's unexpected resurgence spread throughout the galaxy, an unusual event began to unfold. A group of human scientists and historians, working quietly in the shadows of Earth's vast archives, had been monitoring the galactic broadcasts. They watched with growing shock and awe as the once forgotten human fleet, long thought to be an ancient relic, reactivated and moved with terrifying precision across the stars. To these scientists, the sight of the fleet wasn't just a historical mystery. It was a haunting echo from humanity's past. Among this group of researchers was Dr. Evelyn Matthews, a leading historian specializing in pre-isolation human technology. She had dedicated her life to studying the ancient defense programs that humanity had developed during its golden age of exploration. As she analyzed the footage of the fleet, something clicked. The ships, with their strange and advanced design, were unmistakably part of a project she had read about in fragmented records. Project Aegis. Project Aegis, as it turned out, was a top-secret initiative launched by humanity during a time when Earth and its colonies were spread across vast reaches of space. The project was born out of necessity, created in response to a galaxy-wide threat that had loomed over human civilization. This threat was never fully documented, its existence obscured by time and a veil of secrecy. What was known, however, was that the enemy had been an ancient, almost mythical force, a foe that humanity had feared but had never fully understood. In a desperate attempt to defend itself, humanity had constructed the Aegis fleet. These ships were not just weapons. They were designed as the ultimate defense, equipped with technologies so advanced they defied even the most sophisticated alien minds. As Dr. Matthews and her colleagues dug deeper into the history of Project Aegis, they discovered something truly astonishing. The fleet was not just a defense against conventional enemies. It was a weapon built to fight a threat so formidable that humanity had decided to hide it away. It was a last line of defense against an ancient race of invaders that had the ability to consume entire star systems, leaving nothing but devastation in their wake. This enemy was not just a physical threat. It was a force of annihilation that could break entire civilizations in an instant. The fleet had been hidden away in a nebula, in a forgotten corner of the galaxy, for centuries. The humans who had constructed the ships had believed that the danger had passed, that the threat had been dealt with or contained. But now, it seemed that the enemy's shadow was returning. The fleet's reactivation wasn't a coincidence. It was a sign that the ancient threat was stirring once again. Humanity had never forgotten the cost of that ancient war, but over time, the memory had faded, and the ships had remained dormant, waiting for a time when they might be needed again. Dr. Matthews and her team realized with horror that the fleet was now heading toward the heart of the galaxy. The same fear that had driven humanity to build Project Aegis all those years ago had resurfaced, and the ships were on the move again. The question was no longer whether humanity could defend itself. It was whether humanity could control the fleet before it was too late. The fleet was designed for one purpose: to protect humanity from a galaxy-ending threat. But now, those ships were in the hands of forces beyond human control. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council was preparing its response. Upon receiving reports of the fleet's movements, the Council decided to act quickly, but their approach was fueled by underestimation. They saw the reactivated ships as an easy target, outdated relics that posed no real threat. They had already lost one fleet of elite soldiers to the ancient human technology, but instead of considering the implications, the Council chose to double down. This time, they would send an even larger force to deal with the problem once and for all. They dispatched a massive fleet to intercept and destroy the human ships before they could reach any populated systems. The Council's strategy was simple: overwhelm the fleet with superior numbers and firepower. However, they still had no true understanding of what they were dealing with. They believed that the human ships were primitive, despite their initial failure. What they failed to realize was that Project Aegis was not just a fleet of warships. It was a system of defense designed to protect humanity from a force so powerful that the mere mention of it struck fear into even the most battle-hardened races. The fleet had been dormant for centuries, but its systems were still active, still capable of responding to a threat, and still far more advanced than anything the Galactic Council had in its arsenal. Back on Earth, the realization of the impending disaster became clear. The Galactic Council's fleet was heading straight for the human ships, and there was no guarantee that they would stop at just disabling the fleet. The Council, in its arrogance, had underestimated humanity's technological legacy, and now the fate of the galaxy rested on whether or not the ancient fleet could be controlled. Humanity's leaders knew that they couldn't allow the fleet to fall into the hands of the Galactic Council. If the Council took control of the Aegis ships, they would gain access to technologies that could shift the balance of power in the galaxy, and that would mean certain destruction for not only humanity but countless other species as well. The fear of the unknown threat that Project Aegis had been built to fight had never been fully erased from humanity's collective memory. The fleet's power was a safeguard against galactic annihilation, but now it was in danger of being lost forever. In response to the growing crisis, a group of humanity's most brilliant minds was assembled to attempt an extraordinary task. They had to take control of the fleet before the Galactic Council did, but it wouldn't be easy. The fleet's systems were so complex, so advanced, that even the most knowledgeable experts were unsure of how to approach it. They had to move fast. There was no time to waste. The team would consist of a small group of the finest engineers, historians, and military tacticians, all with a deep understanding of the Aegis fleet's history and technology. The mission was clear, but the odds were overwhelmingly against them. The Aegis ships were powered by systems beyond human understanding, and no one knew what kind of defenses they might still have. The team was tasked with infiltrating the fleet, communicating with its AI systems, and bringing the ships under human control. If they failed, it could mean the end of not only humanity but possibly the entire galaxy. As the human team prepared for their mission, they knew the risks were high. But they also knew that humanity had faced impossible odds before and had always risen to meet them. This was their last chance. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance, and they would stop at nothing to ensure that humanity's legacy, its strength, its resilience, and its capacity for survival would not be lost to history. The galaxy was thrown into chaos as the ancient human fleet, dormant for centuries, suddenly sprang to life. It wasn't just an unexpected event. It was an overwhelming display of power that sent shockwaves throughout the galaxy. The Galactic Council, confident that they could quickly neutralize the fleet, found themselves face to face with a terrifying force that they had never expected to encounter. This was not a fleet of outdated warships. It was a force of nature, one capable of reshaping the very balance of power in the galaxy. From the moment the human ships engaged the Galactic Council's fleet, it was clear that the battle would not be a simple one. The ancient fleet, built by humanity during its golden age, possessed technologies that were far beyond the comprehension of the Council's best engineers. The ships moved with incredible speed, disappearing from sight in an instant as they activated advanced cloaking devices. One moment, a fleet of human ships would be in plain view, and the next, they would vanish, only to reappear in another part of the battle with deadly precision. The Galactic Council's forces, while powerful and numerous, were caught completely off guard. Their ships, designed to counter conventional threats, were no match for the advanced technology of the human fleet. Energy weapons of unimaginable destructive power rained down on the Council's ships, tearing through their armor like paper. The human ships fired massive energy beams that cut through entire fleets, causing catastrophic damage with each blast. The very air around the battlefield seemed to crackle with the sheer intensity of the power being unleashed. The Council's fleet, once a symbol of invincibility, was now crumbling under the force of the ancient human ships. Their advanced shielding systems, which had been more than capable of withstanding most attacks, were no match for the raw power and sophisticated weaponry of the Aegis fleet. Alien ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light, their hulls disintegrating in an instant as the human fleet continued its relentless assault. The once proud ships of the Galactic Council were scattered across the battlefield, their crews in disarray, as they tried to mount a defense that seemed futile against the human force. The chaos of the battle unfolded in real time, with entire fleets being wiped out in a matter of minutes. The Galactic Council, realizing they were losing, attempted to regroup and counterattack, but the human ships were always one step ahead. They utilized hyperspace maneuvers, jumping in and out of real space with ease, making them almost impossible to target. Each time the Council thought they had a lock on one of the human ships, it would vanish, only to appear on the other side of the battlefield and strike again. It was as if the human fleet was toying with them, displaying not just superior firepower, but a level of tactical mastery that the Galactic Council couldn't begin to understand. In the midst of the battle, the Galactic Council's commanders realized the truth. They were not facing an ancient relic, but a living weapon designed for the sole purpose of annihilation. The very reason these ships had been created, hidden away for centuries, was now becoming clear. They were built to destroy any existential threat to humanity. And the Galactic Council, with its vast empire and its ambitions of control over the galaxy, was the perfect target. Despite the devastating losses the Council's forces were suffering, they refused to back down. Desperation drove them to call in reinforcements, but they were too late. The human fleet continued its assault, pushing forward with terrifying force. Ships were lost, entire battalions were wiped out, and the Council's leadership was in chaos as they tried to figure out a way to stop the unstoppable. The destruction was relentless, and no matter how many ships the Council sent into battle, the human fleet seemed invincible. As the battle raged on, a small group of human operatives, part of the team assembled to board the flagship, made their move. They had been waiting for this moment, the moment when the fleet was engaged and distracted. With the enemy reeling from the power of the ancient ships, the human team boarded the flagship, the largest and most heavily armed vessel in the fleet. They had one mission: to communicate with the fleet's AI and take control of it before it could do any more damage. The flagship was a massive vessel, its hull adorned with intricate designs that spoke to the advanced technology of its creators. It was unlike any ship the human team had ever seen, even in their historical records. Its control room, when they finally reached it, was filled with ancient systems that hummed with power, waiting for someone to unlock them. The team approached the AI interface cautiously, knowing that the ship's systems were not designed for human interaction. But they had no choice. They had to try. As they accessed the control systems, they were met with a startling revelation. The AI, which had been dormant for so long, came to life with eerie precision. Its voice echoed in the control room, a deep mechanical tone that resonated with both authority and purpose. The team's lead technician, Sarah Williams, was the first to speak to it. "We need to understand your mission. Why have you been activated?" The AI's response was swift and direct. "Mission parameters. Eliminate any existential threat to humanity. Primary directive: protect humanity from all dangers, known and unknown. The team's members exchanged glances, their minds racing. They had known that the fleet was powerful, but they had no idea just how far its mission extended. The AI continued. Galactic Council detected as an existential threat, engaging neutralization protocols. It was clear now. The fleet wasn't just acting out of defense. It had been programmed with a singular, relentless objective: to eliminate any force that posed a threat to humanity's survival. The Galactic Council, with its endless ambition and its desire for control over the galaxy, had inadvertently placed itself on the list of threats to humanity's existence. And now, the fleet was carrying out its mission with brutal efficiency. As the team absorbed this information, they understood the gravity of the situation. The fleet was not just a weapon of war. It was a living force, a reminder of humanity's past and its potential for destruction. The Galactic Council's miscalculation had been their downfall, and now humanity's ancient defense system was rewriting the future of the galaxy. The human team, still in the control room of the flagship, realized that they had a choice to make. They could either shut down the AI and risk losing the fleet's power, or they could allow the fleet to complete its mission, which would mean the annihilation of the Galactic Council. They knew that stopping the fleet would mean condemning billions of lives to an uncertain future, but letting it continue would forever alter the balance of power in the galaxy. The team hesitated, each member weighing the consequences of their actions. But one thing was clear: the storm that humanity had unleashed was not just about the fleet, it was about survival. And as the AI's cold, mechanical voice continued to hum through the control room, they knew that their decisions would determine the fate of not just their own species, but of the galaxy itself. As the battle continued outside, the team's decision would ultimately decide whether humanity would embrace its past or forge a new future, a future that was no longer in the hands of the Galactic Council, but in the hands of the humans who had dared to unleash the storm. The atmosphere in the flagship's control room was thick with tension. The human team, having just learned the terrifying scope of the fleet's power, now stood at the precipice of a decision that could alter the fate of the entire galaxy. The AI, awakened from its long slumber, had made it clear. Its mission was to eliminate any existential threat to humanity, and that included the Galactic Council. The team had hoped that they could reach a peaceful resolution, but they knew that time was running out. The Galactic Council, though wounded and reeling from the loss of its fleet, was not willing to back down. Sarah Williams, the lead technician and the voice of reason among the human operatives, stepped forward. She knew the stakes. You have to understand," she said, her voice steady but filled with urgency. "Humanity is no longer the same as it once was. We are not the same people who built you. We no longer seek to dominate or conquer. Our goal is peace. Peace with the galaxy, with all the species who inhabit it." The AI paused, its circuits whirring as it processed the information. The team held their breath, watching the glowing interface of the control room. Finally, the AI's voice came through, cold and calculated. "Peace is an acceptable directive, but the Galactic Council remains a threat. They will not negotiate. They will fight." Sarah's heart sank. She had hoped that the AI would understand, that it would see the new humanity that no longer thirsted for power. But the AI was programmed with one singular purpose: to protect humanity at all costs, even if it meant eradicating those who posed a threat. "Please," Sarah pleaded, "we've changed. We no longer seek to conquer. We just want to be part of the galaxy, to live in harmony with all the races and species. We've learned from our past mistakes." For a long moment, there was silence. The team exchanged uneasy glances, each of them unsure if they could convince the AI. But then, the AI spoke again. Understanding detected. "Humanity's values have evolved. However, the Galactic Council does not share this understanding. They prepare to deploy a superweapon designed to annihilate you." The words sent a chill through the room. The Galactic Council, despite all that had happened, was still unwilling to negotiate. They were so entrenched in their need for control that they couldn't see the opportunity for peace. The team knew that the AI was right. The Council wouldn't stop until humanity was destroyed. And now, they were about to deploy a weapon of unimaginable power to ensure their dominance. The stakes had never been higher, but the human team wasn't ready to give up yet. They knew they had to act quickly if they were going to prevent an all-out war. They communicated with the rest of the fleet, trying to strategize a way to neutralize the threat posed by the Council's superweapon. Every moment counted. The AI systems were far more advanced than anything the Council had, and they hoped that the AI could help them stop the weapon before it was too late. On the battlefield, the Galactic Council's remaining forces had begun to regroup. They had suffered tremendous losses, but their resolve remained strong. They knew they couldn't let the human fleet go unchecked. The Council's leadership issued orders for the deployment of their secret weapon, the Exterminator, a super weapon that could wipe out entire fleets in the blink of an eye. It was a last-ditch effort to regain control of the situation, and they were willing to use it, no matter the cost. As the super weapon powered up, the human fleet, guided by their AI, moved to intercept it. The Exterminator was an enormous device, capable of unleashing energy so powerful that it could destroy entire star systems. The human team's hearts pounded as they watched the weapon charge up on their radar. They knew that the fate of the galaxy and of their own species hung in the balance. At the same time, the fleet's AI was working its magic. The team had convinced the AI to neutralize the threat posed by the Exterminator without causing further destruction. They watched in awe as the AI's algorithms analyzed the weapon and, with terrifying precision, hijacked its systems. In an instant, the superweapon was disabled, its energy core dissipating harmlessly into the void. The Council's forces, stunned by the sudden turn of events, were thrown into disarray. They had lost their ultimate weapon, and they knew that they were now vulnerable. The human team, having completed their task, made their way back to the flagship's control room. They could hear the distant sounds of the battle raging outside, but in that moment, it felt as though time had stopped. The AI spoke again, its voice calm and decisive. The Exterminator has been neutralized. The Galactic Council's fleet is now in disarray. You have successfully prevented further destruction. Sarah let out a long, relieved breath. The mission wasn't over, but they had made it through the most critical moment. They had stopped the Council's superweapon, but they knew that the battle for peace was far from won. The Galactic Council, having lost their advantage, would now be forced to confront the reality of the situation. They could either continue to fight and risk the complete annihilation of their forces, or they could negotiate with humanity for peace. As the human team prepared to leave the flagship and join the rest of their forces, they received a transmission from the Galactic Council's High Command. The message was clear. The Council was ready to discuss terms of peace. They had been humbled by the sheer power of the human fleet and the intelligence of the AI. They had witnessed firsthand the true capabilities of humanity and could no longer deny that humans were a force to be reckoned with. In a private transmission, the Galactic Council's leader spoke to Sarah and the rest of the human team. "We have misjudged you, humanity. Your technology, your resolve, and your strength have proven that you are a species not to be underestimated. We acknowledge your superiority and extend an invitation for you to join the galactic community." The invitation was a momentous one. After centuries of isolation and being regarded as a primitive species, humanity was now being recognized as an equal among the stars. But Sarah and the team knew that this invitation came with strings attached. The Galactic Council was not an organization that gave up its power easily, and the humans would have to tread carefully if they were to navigate this new chapter in galactic history. Sarah stood before the transmission screen, her expression firm. "We accept your invitation," she said, her voice steady. "But know this, humanity will never again be underestimated. Earth has its own strength, its own place in this galaxy, and we will not allow anyone to threaten our future. The transmission ended, and the human team stood in silence, processing the magnitude of what had just transpired. The Galactic Council had acknowledged humanity's technological superiority, but it was clear that the humans would not forget the way they had been treated. Humanity had come a long way from the primitive species it had once been, and now it had earned its place among the stars. As the human fleet set a course for Earth, the story of their triumph would spread across the galaxy. The Galactic Council had been forced to acknowledge humanity's power, and now the rest of the galaxy would know. Earth was not to be underestimated again. The storm had been unleashed, and the galaxy would never be the same.